we're going to call the first meeting of the House Standing Committee on Economic Development and Workforce Investment to order. Before we get into the discussion on our bill today, I do have a few housekeeping items and announcements that I would like to make. First is I'd ask all folks to silence their cell phones at this time. Message for our members who are attending remotely. During the roll call, please indicate where you're located, whether you're on the Capitol grounds or from your home or district office when the roll call is done. And just a reminder that only those members that are on the Capitol grounds or the annex grounds will be allowed to vote present or on bills during the roll call. While we've been in session for a few weeks now, this is our first official meeting, and I would like to recognize the staff that we have going forward. We have Janine Coy, Committee Staff Administrator, Audrey Ernstberger, Kirk Smith, a new individual, Crystal Thompson, want to welcome her, Sasha Allen, Helen MacArthur is our graduate fellow, and Caleb Westfall is our intern for the 2022 session. If any members have questions or a comment, please signal to Janine or Sasha. Members attending remotely that have a question or comment, please send a message in Zoom using the chat function. And before we get into the discussion today, I do want to recognize one new member that we have joining us on the Economic Development Committee. Representative Tim Truitt is new to this committee, and Representative Truitt, we want to welcome you on board. So welcome. If anybody else would like to cheer, they're welcome to do that at this time. Sasha, please call the roll.
Representative Baker.
Present.
Representative Banta.
Present in the room.
Representative Beckler.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Bojanowski.
I'm participating from District 32.
Thank you. Representative Bray.
Present in the room.
Representative Brown. Representative Callaway.
Present in the room.
Representative Cantrell. I'm here. Representative Freeland.
Here in the room.
Representative Gentry.
Present in the room.
Representative Hart.
Present from my district, 78th House District.
Representative Huff.
Present in the room.
Representative Johnson.
Present in the room.
Representative King.
Present in the room.
Representative Cole Carney.
Present from my annex office.
Thank you. Representative Lawrence.
Present from my district.
Thank you. Representative Lockett.
Here in the room.
Representative Rowland. Representative Sharp.
Present in the room.
Representative Sheldon.
Present in the room.
Representative Tackett Lafferty. Representative Truitt.
Present in the room.
Representative Elliott. Chairman Weber.
Present in the room. Thank you. At this point, we're going to hear our first bill, House Bill 144. I'm the sponsor and the presenter. At this time, I'm going to turn the chair position over to our vice chair, Representative Elliott, and let him conduct the meeting, and I will go down and present the bill. Representative Elliott.
You are recognized, Representative Weber, to introduce yourself and your guest and to proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Russell Weber, State Representative for the 26th Legislative District.
Good morning. I'm Kate Shanks, Senior Vice President of Public Affairs for the Kentucky Chamber.
Mr. Chairman and members of this committee, the piece of legislation that we have before us today is familiar to every member of this committee, with the exception of Representative Truitt, who was not here in the 21 legislative session. During the 2021 session, we passed House Bill 413, which froze the unemployment insurance tax rates, the taxable wage base, the contribution rate. We lowered that back to Table A, and we suspended the surcharge on businesses that had been implemented a few years earlier. That bill called for these tax freezes on small businesses and business owners across the Commonwealth for the years 2021 and 22. The governor line item vetoed that bill. We'll save for another day the discussion on whether he could do that. But he did, and the General Assembly, through late days in the session, did not override that veto. So we are back today with House Bill 144, and it freezes those rates that I brought up today for the year 2022.
Motion on the bill.
There's a motion from Representative Johnson, and who was the second? Representative Bray.
We had a lot of seconds.
We did. Does Ms. Shanks have any comments that she'd like to make?
The Kentucky Chamber fully supports this legislation. And thank you so much for all the work that you all have done on returning the unemployment insurance trust fund balance back to its pre-pandemic levels and freezing these taxes. You're saving employers money so that they can reinvest in their workforce and their businesses and better serve their customers. So thank you, and thank you to the chairman for bringing this legislation.
Is there any discussion? And we do have a question from Representative Gentry. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, I guess, Mr. Vice Chair, and thank you, Chair, for bringing this legislation today. And thank you, Kate, for the work you do over at Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. But I've got a question here. I sit on A&R as well, and our A&R chairman made a statement to us and a statement on the floor about trying to get this trust fund balance back to where it needs to be to meet federal recommendations, requirements, whatever the terminology is closer to $1 billion. And we, of course, with the pandemic that we were in, we had to exhaust a lot of funds, even borrow money, and we were able to pay those loans back with some federal funds. And if I remember right, I think we appropriated $312 million to bring it back to pre-pandemic levels, what the trust fund was. I guess my question is this counter to what A&R Chair is trying to do to build back up? Is this what kind of impacts are we looking at? And can you talk a little bit about that and expand it? Because it looks like we're doing two different things here. So just expand on that a little bit more would be helpful. Thank you.
So first of all, I would say no, this is not counter. Actually, this is a prudent, reasonable approach and plan to reaching solvency for the trust fund. The General Assembly did appropriate $312 million through our proposed budget, which will elevate us back up to the pre-pandemic level of the unemployment trust fund. One of the things that I maintain in bringing this bill forward is the fact that right now our businesses across the Commonwealth are, because of our workforce issues, are paying higher wages. We have supply chain issues. I mean, think of the times that members of this committee and myself have walked into businesses to purchase things, and you look at the shelves and you think they're going out of business. So that's an issue. We have inflation on the rise. We have businesses right now. I talked to an employer yesterday. He has 3 open positions in his company that pay $45,000 a year, and he can't get anyone to apply for those positions right now. A recent decent wage. This is a 1-year freeze that will continue to allow our businesses, and I'm going to say small businesses because that's really the bulk of what we're talking about in the Commonwealth right now, small business owners, that this allows them to keep their doors open, meet these costs that are still there. Those costs are still those bills are still going to have to be paid, and this gives them some breathing room. Because if we don't have these businesses open in the future, we won't have folks paying in to the trust fund to get it to where we need to be. And so I see this as an overall structure toward helping us get there. Our unemployment trust fund hasn't been solvent since 1974. Only one other state has been insolvent longer than we have. So this is a reasoned approach to getting us there and keeping businesses open so that they continue to employ Kentuckians and move us ahead. So I hope that answered your question, Representative Gentry.
Yes, thank you for that response. If I could just do a follow-up, Mr. Vice Chair.
Yes, sir.
And my follow-up question is, do you see this happening again next year, or is this just a one-time thing? I know the bill's a one-time thing. I guess let me say this: do we plan to have additional appropriations toward this fund moving forward in this session that you're aware of?
I'm not aware of any other than the $312 million. I can't predict the future. Originally, the bill called for a 2-year freeze. At the time in the 21 session when that was presented, we saw that as a reasonable approach to give businesses that breathing room that they needed to keep their doors open and keep employing folks. I can't predict what the future is. My intention and hope is that this bill will help these businesses, as I said, stay open, and we won't have to come back and make this request. So I'm really thinking 22 at this point, and not in the future an additional request.
Thank you for that, and I certainly appreciate the challenges of the pandemic, especially in many small business sectors. I'm a small business owner myself, so I understand the challenges that are out there. We've got major challenges in many aspects moving forward, so certainly workforce is one of them. And if I could just ask one final question.
Sure, one more.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to, is the Labor Cabinet in favor of this, or have you spoken with them at all about this particular issue?
I received communication from the Labor Cabinet indicating what they calculated the financial impact would be on this. You'd have to ask them whether they're opposed or supportive of it. Their letter just seemed to be more informative to me, and I appreciate that response. I mean, they were doing due diligence and what they're supposed to do, reaching out and sharing that information. But even with the figures that they provided, we still have a positive gain through this.
Thank you very much, Representative.
You are welcome. Representative Bojanowski remotely has a question or a comment. You're recognized.
Yes, thank you very much. So this question may be a little more for Ms. Shanks. Could you elaborate maybe on how businesses are doing today? I have a contact within the restaurant industry, and he said, some are doing better, some are doing much better, some are still struggling. And of course, employment and staffing is always an issue. And the PPP loans and the Restaurant Revitalization Award grants were very helpful. Can you give us a little more insight in how our, maybe toward our smaller businesses are doing today?
Sure, Representative, and that's actually a really good summary that you provided and what you're hearing from your constituents. It does vary across business sectors and how they're faring, but I would say that the workforce challenges that we continue to face in Kentucky are significant. We have well over 100,000 jobs open in Kentucky. We need to get our workers back, and I think it would be difficult to find really any employer or sector of the economy that's not struggling with our workforce shortages in Kentucky. We aren't out of the situation that we're in with the pandemic, just in the sense of the uncertainty it creates. Of course, we're dealing with a new variant right now. I think we're at 32% positivity rate these days. So the hospitals are dealing with that. They're dealing with worker shortages as well. And so it's challenging, but I will say that there is great I think optimism about the opportunities that we have in Kentucky. There's been significant job growth. And when I talk about the economy, I always talk about two sides of an equation where we have to create jobs. And we're seeing a lot of that. And we're seeing so many of the policies that you all have put in place over the years really, the benefits come to fruition on that, but we have to have the workers to fill the jobs. We need to deal with both sides of that equation in order to achieve the economic prosperity that we know we can achieve in Kentucky. And so that's why we've been so focused on workforce. But, this legislation and other legislation that we're working on this session is going to be directed at us continuing to recover from this pandemic, the economic crisis that it created, while also addressing these workforce challenges. And so I think what you're hearing from your constituents is pretty consistent about what we're hearing across the state. Some are really struggling and some are maybe doing better than others, but we are seeing statewide challenges with workforce. So we will be focused on that. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, definitely it does. And may I ask one follow-up?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So we're looking at these numbers in aggregate. Do you have a sense on average on how much this might save a typical smaller than usual business? Maybe dollars per employee or something that, we can get a handle on for the smallest businesses. What kind of an impact would this bill have?
So this particular legislation would save on average about $70 per employee. Last year, it was closer to $100 per employee because we had a more severe situation with our unemployment insurance trust fund. And so we were looking at going from Schedule A to Schedule E, whereas this year it's C to A. We have Schedule C in place. This would freeze it at Schedule A. And so we're looking at about a $70 per employee savings because of this legislation. So
That's very informative. So just one last plug that we really need to have more high quality childcare so we can get more of our women back in the workforce. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Yes.
Representative Kulkarni, you're recognized remotely for a question or a comment.
Thank you. And thank you for presenting this bill. I had a quick question, and I apologize. I know that we probably went over this the last time this bill was presented. I just had a question about the entities that would be impacted and what the rate is that's going to be frozen for them. And then just wanted to also reiterate one of the questions that Rep. Bojanowski asked in terms of how this will impact. I know you mentioned $70 per worker is it across the board, including for micro businesses? And how does it impact different types of entities and I guess different sizes? And then what is that? What is the rate that's being frozen?
So, Representative Kulkarni, the rate is determined based upon the amount of money in the trust fund. And so in September of 2021, that rate was set to go into effect at Schedule C for the year 2022. As Kate said, that amounts to about a $70 increase per employee or per business in the Commonwealth. This legislation will take that back to Schedule A for the year 2022 because our trust fund actually is, with the infusion of the $312 million, we're getting up to about $619 million in the trust fund, unemployment trust fund. And this would be across the board for businesses.
Thank you.
Representative Cantrell, you're recognized.
Thank you. My question is about, it kind of follows one of Representative Gentry's questions about the 300, or I think you said $312 million that we appropriated from federal funds into the House budget for the UI Trust Fund. To me, a lot of this bill seems to be premised on that staying in the budget. Now, it was in the House version of the budget. I voted for that budget. We have sent it along. I think it's been publicly reported that the Senate isn't going to send theirs back until about March. So my question is there some sort of agreement with the Senate that UI trust fund money is going to stay in what the General Assembly eventually passes as its budget? Because If it's not, then this bill is a little bit, potentially premature and maybe even could have some harmful consequences to the UI Trust Fund.
I'm not aware of a promise or a commitment that's been made, but I have talked to our A&R chair. He feels pretty confident that this will remain in the process. The General Assembly as a whole decided in the 21 session that we would use those federal monies to pay down the loan, the federal loan that was taken. So I think as a whole, there is a consensus in the General Assembly that this is an important issue. And so I think it's, I can't make predictions, but I do know that on our side, we'll certainly be advocating very strongly that it remain in there.
And we have on our side, and that is not what I'm getting at here. We've all done our part, but you never know what's going to happen between our budget, the Senate budget, and that conference committee report. And I just want to be sure that other people are aware of that as well. We're just going to have to watch this, over the next few months. Thank you.
Well, I would agree with you on that, and I certainly will be watching it.
Well, I would just make a comment. We would not be here but for the governor's veto. Is that correct? Of the 22 portion of what was passed?
That is correct. If he had not vetoed that, we would not be sitting here today.
Okay. Seeing no other members who are interested in discussion, would our staff please call the roll?
Representative Baker?
Yes.
Representative Banta?
Yes.
Representative Beckler?
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Bojanowski? Representative Bray?
Yes.
Representative Brown?
Yes.
Representative Callaway?
Yes.
Representative Cantrell?
Yes.
Representative Elliott?
Aye.
Representative Freeland?
Yes.
Representative Gentry?
Explain my vote, please.
You're recognized to do that.
Thank you. I was a yes before on this, and I'm going to be a yes today, again this morning. My concerns are less about this particular bill and more about what might happen in the future. But today, this morning, I am a yes. Thank you.
Representative Hart? Representative Huff?
Yes.
Representative Johnson?
Yes, ma'am.
Representative King?
May I explain my vote, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is vitally important. I am an adamant yes on this, and I was an adamant yes on every aspect of Senate Bill 25 recently on the House floor, and I think it's completely consistent to be a yes on both. Thank you for the explanation, and yes, I'm a yes.
Representative Kulkarni?
Yes.
Representative Lawrence? Representative Lockett?
Yes.
Representative Rowland? Yes. Representative Sharp?
Yes.
Representative Sheldon?
Absolutely.
Representative Tackett Lafferty?
Yes, I'd like to record a yes vote and make sure that I'm marked as present.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Representative Truitt?
Yes.
Chairman Weber?
Yes.
House Bill 144 passes 21 yeas, no nays, with favorable expression.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Thank you for your presentation. If there's no other business to come before the committee, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.